Man, Jed, if you hadn't said anything, I would have thought that was just a silent interlude throughout the whole song. But you know, more power to you. In any case, please welcome our next performer to the podium, Holt Brindle. Awesome. Oh, and one more thing, just a reminder, if you're new and you if you want to perform, we have a sign-up sheet on the red table with that.
Put this here just in case. Actually, James Nice, I think, performing Landslide earlier. My cousin passed a couple weeks ago, and just today we found out that they raised $40,000 for the National Eating Disorder Association in her name. That was her song, so that was nice. It was a nice moment. But anyway, I picked this song for the winter theme. It's about getting through a breakup. So yeah. It's October, I'm getting old, I am falling, I think I'll fold, I am taller than the sunflower and playful as the rain, I'm the rabbit hole, the grassy knoll where lightning won't strike again, I am Sister Nature, you can't name or place her, they try to erase her, carbon heartbeat danger. Nature and nurture, you can never hurt her. There's smoke in her flavor, she is her own damn savior. It's November, so I am told my love is leaving, my heart is gold, I am greener than the clover and tearful as the sky, not the cherry tree nor God nor me can make sense out of goodbye. The first snowfall, the northern lights, the feeling that you get when you drive alone at night. The first snowfall, the purple sun, the last clap of thunder when you thought the storm was done. I am Sister Nature, you can't name or place her. They try to cage her, behold she's Ursa Major. It's nature and nurture, you can never hurt her. So go and grow your labor, you do not need to save her. It's December, my feet are cold, I am growing, I'm getting bold, I am louder than the summer, forgiving as the sea. On the beach or road, the Roman road, it all leads back to me. I am Sister Nature, you can't name or place her. They call me wind chaser, haunt you with a whisper. It's nature and nurture, you can never hurt her. So cherish your creator, it's kind of hard to hate her.
Thank you, Hope. Next up, we have Alex. Give it up for Alex.
This is called Crash Cart, and it's very short. Okay. Is this better? I don't. All right. Crash Cart. Tell me your name. Tell me the year. Who's the president? How many fingers? World turns cold, fades to black. Tough luck, kid. They brought you back.
All right, and for our next performer, Erica, please come to the stage.
Hello. I'm not always this bitter about work. This one's called 9 to 5. It's hard keeping time in rhyme or in line for your benefits, deficits, or the food drive. It's hard holding moments, small but still prime, worries easy, bosses sleevey, world's dripping with slime. It's hard forgetting your stars won't align, you just quit, paycheck shit, and you're still dead inside.
Thanks, Erica. Next up, we have Namreen. Give it up for Namreen.
Hey, so I haven't really written anything recently, but this is something from when I wrote when I was 14 years old, and I see that there are some probably teenagers in the audience, so possibly can relate, I'm not sure. So the first one is, when howling winds have passed away, bent barks tell their tales of yesterday. When gushing waters come to shore, they leave their mark forevermore. When thy existence ceases to be, every rock and cone and tree shall narrate the story of thy eternal glory. The second one is, it's called Thus With My Heart You Did Toy. Just keep in mind I was 14 when I wrote these. Like the pleasant summer winds that first bring colors and joy, then blend into the chilly winters that screech, howl, and destroy. Like the beautiful leaves and flowers that in summers fully bloom, then in autumn are shed like omens of impending doom. Like the glorious morning sun that above the world shines, then day turns to darkness and the glory all declines. Thus came you into my heart, you loved, you cared, you brought happiness, then came the time to part. You left my heart empty and hollow, taking away all its joy, leaving behind only sorrow. Thus, with my heart you did toy. There is one more. This is the last one. This is called Peacefully Broken. At times such as these, I wish the wind would hold still. The clouds would blanket the heavens. Every happiness shall the darkness kill. The world would turn to ruin to match my heart's tragedy, and no happiness shall mock me in this sweet melancholic mystery. In the darkness I would gather every sorrow, every pain, and no one would bother to say that to weep is vain. Let me dwell thus, peacefully broken, in my own private hell, where I alone reside and no one else beside. Thank you.
When I started taking writing classes in high school, my poetry professor tells me rhyme is dead. And I'm happy to say that these past 4 or 5 entries have allowed me to come back to there and say, ha! In your face! But personal vendetta aside, please welcome the next performer, Ab P. Awesome.
Mine, hope you like Mount Airy. Up the Kraut Hill is a mulatto suburb. Up the Kraut Hill is a town unothered. The chestnut one mothered. No ivy like Wissahickon, nor ivy like West Philly. Up the Kraut Hill that is segregated yet black and white, right above the cobblestone mulatto suburb, the town unothered. Up the Kraut Hill that chews up and spits out the 23 like gum on the sidewalk and the street. And then the trolley's steel wrinkle on the avenue, up the Kraut Hill like Mount Pleasant, the ramps that run down Upsells and Philalandas to Calmer, Philadelphia's, and other... Have I not been talking into the mic? Okay. To Calmer, Philadelphia's, and unothered Philly begrudgingly brothered, and Chestnut Hill mothered, the mulatto suburb. Up the Kraut Hill where you look in the sky and see the Luftwaffe fly south from Germantown to Italy. where the children of Germany speak English and European, with walls as tall as Berlin bricks, torn down, unothered, and created a mulatto suburb. Up the Kraut Hill, Philadelphia brothered, a town, a hood, a suburb, in black and white like its people and immature like its streets, still 17, where castles stay gray and wear grass on their birthday, and at night stays an orange-painted suburb unothered, that Kraut's mothered. Thank you.
Excellent works right there. Now, for our next performer, please welcome Peg Ah to the stage. Awesome.
I like that you said it like it was two things. Hey guys, I'm Pega. I am from Maryland and I have read in DC, so this is my first time reading in Philly. Yeah, that's it. Are there any rules that this is my first time being here, but that I should be aware about? Anybody?
You guys remember the motto?
What's the motto?
Poetry, prose, and anything goes.
Okay. Great. Cool. All right. And I like engagement because I used to do spoken word. So this isn't a spoken word piece, but if you have any like criticism for me, if you want to boo me off, go for it. If you want to snap, do that. And before I speak, I always like to just sort of remind everyone that like we are on stolen land, lest we forget. Yeah, so here we go. This is something I wrote maybe like a year ago. The Bible forgets to tell you how Eve counted Adam's ribs each day to make sure they were all still there. Just to see if behind her back he didn't conspire, to make sure she really was the only one, her, sneaking over to his side of the bed each night after night after night, soft footsteps to painstakingly check the number, the length of, to see if there was less rib cage, indicating infidelity, and caught time and time again. Her excuse was that he has a heart too big to be carried by too little bone, that she was counting just to make sure he was still breathing, that her fingers slipped inside of an open casket. Let me tell you that I've felt like the first and only woman on earth, being told it's only me and him, looking for any reason to doubt my own existence, and it's exhausting to count thin white pillars of a body made, to check my own rib cage, to prove to myself he's still here, to count every day porcelain, looking for cracks to prove my doubts wrong. And what do you do if one day a hairline fracture indicates that last night he tried briefly to chisel one away? Not successful, no, but still that doubt. What if Tuesday morning at the crack of dawn you wake to sounds of sawing bone, of hushed voices, of telephone's light, and something so ancient stirring in his hands? What if you roll over and see his new creation abruptly, at once, and he tells you, well, he just had a heart too big to be carried by your little bone hands, that he took time so as to make this count. It's to make sure he's still breathing, that his fingers just slipped inside an open casket. Oops, brushed a body still warm. The Bible forgets to tell how Eve cringed when she felt that empty space in Adam's chest, but a book carved in the hands of men could only tell the story of what came next, that it was all good, and that he said, let it be so, so it had to be all good. Thank you.
Alrighty. Wonderful piece. Now, for our next performer, please welcome Sarah to the podium.
Hello. So, hi everyone. Okay. So I'm a freshman here, and I just like experienced my first winter and stuff. So here's a poem about winter. The poem titled A Winter Bed. Winter is when the call is the strongest, alluring like a siren, that four-legged being with its thick fur, so tempting yet powerful, like a silent monster. But then, us humans require that beast to rest in its form against the cold winter. Oh, how alluring, my soft, comfy bed. I hope to not miss a class due to being trapped in my bed. Thank you.
I think we can all with confidence say that was a very, very relatable piece. All right, now for our next performer, please welcome Isabel to the podium.
I want to stand, so I might try and... No, don't mess with the mic. That's definitely a rule. I'll sit. So I have two, so I'll try and sneak them in. One's shorter, so hopefully it won't take very long. My first one's called Bogs and Angels. So this is about when we kind of make people into angels. And for me, this was about my father. So we lived in quite difficult circumstances for a while, and for me, that meant seeing all of his greatness. But that meant ignoring all of his darkness as well, and at times there came a point when I had to see him for all of his pieces, and that meant losing that angel. So that's why it's called Bogs and Angels. And it goes like this. In the bog, the worm seizes the weed. In the night, the shivering shrew grasps the flint that reflects the moon. Amongst the bramble, we all will cling to the only thorn that might keep us warm. My chosen horizon, my lifeline, my bloodline, serrated light, I rubbed you smooth. I'd carve my palms into your every groove to keep you pure, fresher than the morning. Devoted love. The darkness couldn't touch me when I focused on us. I had to keep you clean. Even if that meant spreading your oil on me, I could live in your grease. If it meant still waking to see the sunrise emanating from your cheeks. Blinded focus, determined faith, my utmost, complete, unwavering place at your side, neglecting all the limbs of my being that I needed to break away from the storm, wash off the oil, awake from the night, release my hands from that serrated light and breathe above the bog, lift from my head from the fog and see the limpet from me, the storm in myself, find some space from that ripped up, torn up, infected place. The worm that was born into a bog, the limpet that loves the side of the rock, knows little else than weeds and mud. We cling to the ceiling we believe to be the heavens above. Now as I crack the rock, I shatter my shell. I formed inside you, I am part of your hell. This is your excavation for my salvation, but I've been fused to you since my creation, and I am afraid that I may have no restoration. I may never be whole again. The devil in you, the devil in me. At least the devil we had an identity. So that's the first one. And then this one's a little brighter. This one's called Holt. And for me, it's about the idea that sometimes when you've suffered a lot of losses or losses of other people or part of yourselves, you can feel like you've had parts of yourself kind of ripped out of you. And so this is what I wrote for when I feel like that. You are whole. You are not formed from gaping holes, not the patchwork of torn pieces ripped from your soul. You are no mountain of missing limbs, not a graveyard of all abandoned things, no excavation site, no abandoned plot, all these empty vessels that you are not. Stand. The wind will not pass through. Every piece you lost made for the very essence of you. Growth cannot occur when walled tightly in. As they ripped out your bricks, the light rushed in. Break up from the cellar. Inhale into your hurts. Form your new fabric from every lesson you learnt. Grief is respect for what was lost, what passed. Honor your dead. Only growth can last.
Very enjoyable couple pieces there. Thank you again, Isabel. And for our next performer, please welcome Brian to the stage. And just for 1 second, we will now be closing all signups from this point on. But don't worry, if you still want a chance to speak, we aren't done just yet. So please welcome Brian to the stage.
Like breath, the water sloshed and receded. Damn cold. Like breath, maybe a nervousness. Like breath, the water sloshed and receded, causing the boats to knock against the dock like ice cubes in a hard glass, one that would survive a tumble to a barroom floor, made of repurposed wood, drawn from boats lazy at a lakeside dock. As timeless and worn the wood, so too the movement felt. And yet, any moment, some craftsman asshole could come to drag any of these boats kicking and screaming from their idyllic lull to be the first feature photo of some screaming blog article that so excitedly heralded the new Enoteca, whose germination, the very idea of, just had to cause an uptick in your sperm count. Or send an egg downriver like a Viking canoe whose flaming arrow was already wicked and waiting to be launched. I felt something like kinship as I returned his gaze, that feeling leaping from my head in a devilish voice, telling me to stop in for a drink and pour out all I had to say to a bartender well capable of listening. The attempted robbery happened in the time before, but I had to wonder if he would have fared the same as I had. And then my mind was working out just how much the atmosphere we now lived under played into that door adjacent to that window exploding on the day where everything changed for me. I read thoughts and felt stares from nearly every stoop during the short block north from Carpenter to Christian, a subcurrent cutting into the ease that had bore me around the corner. How are you still alive? So locked was I on that set of eyes that I couldn't tell if the words had been spoken or telepathically transmitted. Okay, smoking high volumes of marijuana was a bit new to me. It doesn't take much for me to be a shaky narrator. How are you still alive? I carried the weighted resentment of those words with me as I turned east on Christian, the indifferent chatter from a nearby stoop, following after, washing into a Kubrick montage projected on the brickwork in the darkness of space as I closed my eyes. As it jumped into life, I thought of how I used to put my iPod away as I approached my side street, where on the other end arguments would explode to wake me up in the middle of the night, like many a fight between stray cats right outside my window at 4 a.m. East of 11th, it's all old neighborhood people, I'd say when I first moved in. On the other side, it gets a little sketchy. Of course, eventually nothing woke me up. The montage began with Mr. Squirrel introduced by jarring brace as he dominated the screen through an uncomfortable close-up that segued into jump cuts in rhythm with each blusterous blare. The macabre vignettes demanding you consider him from multiple angles, the blood slapstick, the tortured gaze it put on as the dead squirrel was a moment or two from snapping out of it. His tongue no longer idly distended, his face free of distortion, and he was running off, and it was more of that cheap 70s prop blood and that pain grimace before the close-ups quickly cut to bodies similarly strewn across streets in northwest and southwest Philly that carried the theme as the facade on the southern side of Christian pulled me close as that window and door loomed on the north side of the street, and the bodies blinked by in all their beautiful contortions, the blood syrup poured by a production assistant just out of frame, the muscles racked to do odd things, but these were just actors, some slumped face down, some still sleeping, though cracked like an egg, while others stared up at you into the night sky, forever asking questions. Scenes of riot, of cars burning, glass raining down like the indelible headdresses of fireworks as she no doubt stared at me through those blinds, perhaps pressing her face against the glass and shifting as far as she could to watch me cross 11th and pay my respects again to Mr. Squirrel before disappearing as I approached the collapsing dome of the Baptist church that was slowly fading into oblivion on the south side of 11th as the majesty of the Catholic Church a few doors east on the north turned a blind eye to its staggered demolition. I had to be out of view as I lined up my shot outside of a window a few doors further east, angling my photo to keep my ghastly image out of the frame. A lone cat staring ponderously as I marveled at how the glass projected the opposite side of the street upon the drapes, the sun-orange stone in folds before that single demarcation of blackness that I could fall through. There were normally 3 to 4 cats lazily passing the day in the window, though this one, head nudged pleasantly against the crank, did well enough to pull me from the montage for a moment. Scenes of protest replaced the reflected streetscape as I turned away from the window, the cat sleeping through a black backdrop of outrage, the incensed masses ready to tear out flesh and throw it. Electrifying anger coexisting with enervating anguish. Up ahead on Christian, the heavy double roller, a molten asphalt wagon, and more assorted vehicles of the streets department approached, warring as they continued their march west, rewriting the city block by block. As I turned right on 10th.
Thank you again for your piece. Now, for the last on the list, but certainly not the least, please welcome Rachel Dennis.
In a shockingly unegoist move, I've decided to not read something of mine and instead read something which is not mine, but which I love. Patterson by William Carlos Williams is the greatest poem of all time, and it's very long, and here's a taste of it so you can check it out. Patterson lies in the valley under the falls, its spent waters foaming on the outline of his back. He lies on his right side, head near the thunder of the waters filling his dreams. Eternally asleep, his dreams walk about the city where he persists incognito. Butterflies settle on his stone ear. Immortal, he neither moves nor arouses, and is seldom seen, though he breathes and the subtleties of his machinations draw their substance from the noise of the pouring river, animate 1,000 automations. Who, because they neither know their sources nor the sills of their disappointments, walk outside their bodies aimlessly, for the most part, locked and forgot in their desires unroused. Say it, no ideas but in things, nothing but the blank faces of the houses and cylindrical trees bent, forked by preconception and accident, split, furrowed, creased, mottled, stained, secret in the body of the light. From above, higher than the spires, higher than even the office towers, from oozy fields abandoned to gray beds of dead grass, black sumac, withered weed stalks, mud and thickets cluttered with dead leaves, the river comes pouring in above the city and crashes from the edge of the gorge in a recoil of spray and rainbow mists. What common language to unravel, combed into straight lines from that rafter of a rock's lip? A man like a city and a woman like a flower who are in love. 2 women, 3 women, innumerable women, each like a flower, but only one man like a city. Thank you.
Wonderful. I may have to go check that out for myself. But now ends the assigned portion of our speakeasy. Could you please give a hand once more for all the wonderful writers and performers who came up here and put themselves up here. Now, if you too would like to put yourself up on this podium and give us what you got, now we open up to the open mic portion of our open mic, where the podium is free for all, and if you feel the urge to rise up and be judged by dozens of merciless eyes, please feel free. Oh, hey, there's plenty of time, plenty of space. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I have other stuff that I wrote, but it's probably not good enough to write. So there's this piece I did for homework for my creative writing class, and it's mimicking this piece called Kidney. So there's like a lot of resemblances. Okay, so Kidney, kind. I'm so sorry. Hold on. Okay, Kidney, sort, kind, sort, or class. Number 1, is it possible to share a kidney? There is the kidney, and within it there is sound, and its counterpart, silence, yes. But the kidney also contains love and hate, joy and despair, fear and admiration, and understanding and confusion. Every reaction has its equal opposite reaction within the kidney. This is true. Yesterday, a student was verbally assaulted on his way home, and the kidney grew. It continues to grow bigger every day. Number 2, the kidney is passed on from generation to generation. It has witnessed the best brutalities and the worst acts of love. It continues to be passed on. Once we give it away, we lose it forever. It becomes a bigger part of the universe. Number 3, yesterday, the light finally hit your eyes at around 10:04. It took years for you to see the way the galaxy looked in the past. Tomorrow the light will hit your eyes at around 10:03. You will see the galaxy as it was in the past. We move further backwards through time in our conquest forward. Number 4, the realization now is that I don't know anything at all. The kidney grows like an infection. It is a sickness we can't shake. Our actions are only reactions. Counter evidence suggests that this wasn't already the truth. Number 5, do you see? The point is that things have become complicated. To simplify, yesterday a Mexican-American student was taunted by his contemporaries with words like wall and the and build. Are you surprised? Number 6, in this generation, it is easy to think that connections have been made. Technology rips its way through society to get to the other side of the world. We know this is progress. Number 7, you may now want to disconnect, but this is another form of progress. Number 8, the realization is that whatever you choose to do, you'll be moving backwards and forwards. The galaxy can be seen as one giant black veil. It can also be seen as infinite light. Number 9, the degree to which we are aware of this paradox depends on what point in the galaxy we are now. Number 10, there is no realization. Nevertheless, we all have a kidney. We are born with it inside our backs. I have used the kidney as a metaphor to describe the burdens and the privileges we bear from previous lifetimes. Sometimes we become so abruptly aware of our kidneys that they swell up. They will grow and grow until they explode. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to go up? Nope. It's yours to claim.
You might have noticed me snickering back there. It's because I got an interesting text message from my friend Jack. He says, "Fuck yourself with sandpaper, you reverse cocksucking bonobo, and your existence, you fucking inverted degenerate fuck." Let me read, probably know this by heart now. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold, her early leaves to flower, but only so an hour, then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief, so dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. That's why I fucks with you. And lastly, here's Biggie Smalls. Live from Bedford Stuyvesant, the livest one. Represent BK to the fullest. Gats I pull it. Bastard duckin' when Big B buckin'. Chicken heads be clucking in my bathroom fucking. It ain't nothing. They know Big B handling with the Mac in the act. Door paneling. Benedigen MCs. Oxygen they can't breathe. Mad tricks up the sleeve. Wear boxes so my dick can breathe. Breathe through in the cube. 45 by my side. Lyrical high and those who... never mind. Okay.
I brought one other piece. It's called The Mowers. The pyramids at Sibel Chaltun smell like cut grass. As I stood on top of one of the pyramids and watched the man mowing across the clearing, behind the chapel the conquistadors built, I wondered about his face, which I could not see. It is common knowledge in Mexico that the Yucatecan Mayan face has not changed in 3,000 years. The round face and prominent nose that you can find in countless inscriptions, pictographs, murals throughout Central America still walks around today in Mérida, Valladolid, Cancun. It even rounds the features of my wife, Aunt Nea, whose family comes from Yucatan, though they've been in Mexico City for the last 3 generations. On the road to Sibel Chaltun, I had seen that face at rest, napping under a bridge. At first, I felt the familiar pang of sadness at seeing another human being left destitute, without a home. But then I noticed his thick boots and nice, although grass-stained clothes. The picture was completed by the weed whacker at his foot. The man sleeping under the bridge was not a houseless person, but a road worker on a break from trimming the grasses that threatened to push their roots through the asphalt. I counted at least 10 mowers that morning before I let my thoughts wander, and then at the pyramids was the 11th. It takes a lot of mowing to keep the jungle at bay in Yucatan. I wondered how they managed it during the era of the pyramid's glory, how they kept back the mindless, suffocating green, the bringer of paint-peeling rot and foundation-breaking roots. Was there, as there is now, a whole caste of cutters, stone or obsidian machetes in hand, whacking at the grass while priests observed the stars? Or was it by sheer force of settlement? Did they keep the grass from growing by walking over it again and again, thousands of feet a day, stomping back the jungle? As we scrambled down the ancient stones, I said to Atenea, what does it say about a colonizing society that it maintains the glorious buildings of the people it conquered? In her answer, Atenea pointed out that while it is true that the money, the archaeologists, the researchers may all be colonizers, the people who are taking care of the site are the same ones that built it. And as I looked around at the men mowing, the tour guides, the ticket takers, I realized she was right. They all had Mayan faces. It is difficult, when writing about mowing, not to write of class. The famous chapters in Anna Karenina, Tolstoy, even though his emphasis is on Levine's joy at honest labor, still manages to sneak in plenty of contrast between the aristocratic Levine and the mowers he employs and joins. It's an almost irresistible comparison, the great inequality among the men who do the mowing and the scythe as a great equalizer, bringing high and short blades of grass to the same level. So too, as I watched the mowers of Sibyl Chautun, I thought about the difference between our lives, our countries, our skin, our money. When we turned to Merida and ate lunch, Atenea and I joked about how the woman who owns our favorite lunch spot can rattle off the menu at will, which she used as a sort of rhythmic chant to attract customers. Atenea reminisced about helping her grandmother sell tamales when she was a little girl, and how her grandmother would grow mad when Atenea or her sisters were embarrassed to chant out what flavors they had. Do you think they know what we're selling, or are you ashamed? She would chide them. Do you know what is shameful? Stealing is shameful. It reminded me of my own grandmother's constant refrain, you go to college or you go to jail. But the two expressions, you know what is shameful? Stealing is shameful. And you go to college or you go to jail actually contain a world of difference. While Atenea was being taught that all honest work is good, only dishonest work is shameful, I was being taught that only the professions that involved studying would be worthy of me. The son of a doctor and a teacher, grandson of a teacher, an engineer, and a nurse, I was at once guaranteed an expensive education and told to use it, that it would be a waste of me to become some kind of mower. If there is to be a reconciliation between my experience as a child of privilege and Atenea's as a tamal seller, it will come from me listening and learning from her. So too, in the mowers' unending war against the jungle, perhaps we are missing something. Perhaps the Mayans never did beat back the jungle. Perhaps they listened and learned from it. Perhaps there were no obsidian machetes, no endless foot traffic. Perhaps they lived in harmony with the great hot green all around them. And at night, as they slept, let the jaguars and iguanas creep through the streets. Thank you.
Okay, so this is really just a conversation. I don't have anything written. So I came to the United States in August 2018. It's not been a long time. I had not been to North America prior to this. It's really my first experience. When I came here, within the first week, I was talking to my roommate, and I was just asking her, you know, what should I do here? What are the things to do? And one of the first things that she told me was, you know what? You should join Minder. And I was like, what is Minder? She's like, Muslim Tinder. And that just blew my mind. I had never heard of this thing. I was like, sure, okay. If that's the thing, I'll try it, right? So I looked at the app, and interestingly, on it, I had to rate how Muslim I was on a scale of 1 to 10. And I never knew where to place myself. Apart from that, there's a section that asks for what flavor of Muslim you are. So are you like just Muslim? Or are you Sunni? Are you Shia? I think the Christian translation would be Catholic, Protestant. I don't know why they call it flavor, but... That being said, one of my other interesting experiences in the United States was every time I had to introduce myself to a classroom, I would say something that would make either people jump out of their skin. So like in front of me, I'd see them go, or like it would follow a dead pin drop silence. And every time I introduced myself, I would say, I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. And there's the silence. Thank you.
Alrighty, so if no one else will be coming up, we may call it a close. So I'm going to be auctioneering off one of the final places for our open mic night. So going once, going to, all right, sold to you. This will be our last performance of the night.
Okay, so I don't have anything prepared either. This is also a conversational thing, but I'm assuming a lot of people here read the news, and what I've been looking at lately has been this whole Virginia governor thing, where the picture of the governor in blackface, or apparently not the governor, just on his yearbook photo. And I read this really interesting article about how like all of this exposes kind of like the really harsh, misogynistic, racist culture of fraternities. And I was talking to one of my friends about this. He's in a fraternity. He's like, oh no, frats get such a bad rap. Like, none of the frats are like that. And I'm like, so I grew up in a college town, really small town in New Hampshire. And we lived on campus. So we actually lived on Fraternity Row. And there's countless times where frat boys just walked into our house just because they thought it was their house. And so I'm coming from a place of like, I'm not sure about that. And I'm like, don't you think that this kind of shows an underlying culture? Like, obviously not all frat boys, not all men, but, you know, like, don't you think that this is kind of a problem if we're coming out of all these different things? And he's like, no, but we do really good things. And I'm like, where are you at the Black Lives Matter rallies? Like, where are you at the women's marches? Why aren't you doing something else? Like, you can't just sit aside and say, oh, I'm not racist, I'm not sexist. Your words mean nothing without your actions. And so this year, I'm really hoping to see some frat guys at some rallies, you know, hopping out there. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right, and that will conclude the first Speakeasy of this month. Hopefully you guys will all survive the polar vortex in the winter. But once again, thank you for coming up. Thank you for performing. Really appreciate it. Have a good night.